Yeah, it was super interesting to hear. Like, people that knew my great-great-grandma. I've never even heard of these people.
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, we heard your episode. And,
What the fuck?
yeah, like, they live in, like, New York or some shit.
I was thinking about sharing it with a couple of people. Uh, I just haven't. The the people that want to hear it, that have reached out to me and been like, "Oh, you'd be great on a podcast."
You're like,
I
that's awkward.
I
'Cause
definitely want to hear that. Like, they know I have a podcast. They just haven't heard the podcast. Like, they don't know what it is.
right.
And it's just because these people are in, like, the online community that I'm a part of.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they don't necessarily know, like, a whole lot about me personally.
Mm.
And so it's just one of those things where, like, do I want to cross that boundary with them or do I not? And it's like, it's not really a big deal to me. It's just, I think privacy is pretty huge to me. I mean, it kind of comes along with, like, my field of work,
Right.
where I just have everything, like, really locked down and secure, and I'm really careful with everything. And so I don't know. I've been debating on whether or not I'm going to. I think I decided that I was going to share it with at least a few of them. Cause, like, why not?
I'm on the fence about it. People have made the choice on their own to listen to my specific episode without encouragement, which does irk me a little bit, but I have to get over that.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying, because it is a sensitive and personal topic. Everything that we talk about is, but that is one of the things that we're doing, is putting it out there.
Right.
So I guess I would be fucking lying to everybody if I told you not to encourage it.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, I guess it's not a super huge deal. I mean,
I see where you're coming from, though.
I don't really. The stuff that we've talked about is pretty much stuff that they've already heard. I mean, I don't censor myself for anybody.
Well, that's a good
in
thing.
in any situation, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, they pretty much know most of the stuff about me anyway. It's not that I'm afraid of them hearing what I have to say. It's just, I've always had this weird thing. One of the reasons why I never started a podcast on my own is because I never really wanted to get famous. Because then, once you get famous, then stuff starts happening to you, whether it's good or bad stuff. And a lot of the bad stuff, like, these days, it's so easy for somebody that doesn't like you to just put you on blast and be like, this person's a pedophile. And then that starts trending around social media. And then now, when your name is heard, it's associated with you being a pedophile, even though that literally never happened. And some dude was just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this about him. And then that's where it begins. Like, this, people have their fucking whatever opinions about it. And, like, I don't really mind so much. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But it's just that, and then, like, the stuff that goes with it. Somebody's not a fan of you, they do stuff.
The negatives are always more spoken about. It's like one positive for every 10 negatives that you hear about,
Right.
And yeah, I get that, because it is so fucking possible. People are literally like 2 or 3 clicks away from potentially ruining somebody else's life.
Right. And I don't care about, like, negative comments and what people talk about and all that kind of stuff. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I've had mixed feelings about it. That's kind of why it's never happened. It's like, after all, like, I'm just a person. There's a billion people out there that are well known, famous, and do things, and people know who they are and everything about them because it's all online and stuff. And so it's like, at some point, breaking that privacy barrier is bound to happen. And I would like people to know of me, I just don't want. I don't know. I guess I don't really care. Like,
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying. And this particular opportunity and situation kind of fills that void, so to speak. Is that how it feels?
yeah.
Because I'm the idiot putting my face on it. I'm not saying I'm not calling anyone an idiot by any means, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, no. It's just for so long I've done so many big things anonymously,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so it's just that there. I'm not necessarily afraid of what's going to happen. It's just sort of the routine of like having that thing up, but like it's still me. All of this stuff is still me, and it's me doing it. And putting a name behind something isn't necessarily a big deal. It's just these days, people are fucking crazy,
People are
man.
definitely fucking crazy, man.
Like
I
what I don't need is people finding out like where I live, and then they are fucking watching me and my family and shit. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I completely understand what you're saying. Um, man, that's what would if you were to start one on your own, what would yours have been about?
well, I wanted it to first. I wanted to just have one of me just kind of brain dumping, like
Hmm.
sort of like a questionnaire type thing of, or a Q&A type thing where I just sort of answer questions and
I think you mentioned that to me before.
sort of just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
But then I follow somebody who I really closely relate to when it comes to mental health on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is How to ADHD for anybody who's curious. And she's brilliant and she's fantastic. And oftentimes when I watch her videos, it makes me tear up because it gives me that sensation that like I'm not alone and like holy shit, like that's me. And so for me, watching her stuff and the things that she says, it has really changed my life. And so I wanted to start one that kind of centered around just like living with ADHD,
Hmm.
um, and just like the just my life, the different topics, but just like this is me in my life, how it's been with ADHD, and cover more specific things when necessary, but really just overall sort of like a mental health type of podcast, but like not giving people advice on like medical stuff or whatever, just kind of my own personal experience with it, similar to how she does it.
Right. That's interesting. So it's in this scenario we kind of dabble.
Yeah.
It comes and goes. I can't get every episode to go the way I fucking want.
Right.
That's been made very clear, which is fine. I kind of, in an annoying way, I kind of enjoy how this thing manifests on its own. I do enjoy when the episode is taken by the guest,
Yeah.
so to speak. Because
Yeah.
everybody's different, and that's what I find the most intriguing.
Well, and I like I don't like things structured. I feel like if it's structured, then there's a starting point, a stopping point, and a main focus. And once that's over with, like then what?
Right.
You know?
Then there's an end point,
Right.
which is inevitably bad.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with you. The way that this thing has continued organically brings me a strange comfort
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily me doing it,
Yeah.
and that's what the fun part is.
It's kind of nice. I also wanted to do an probably first with like hanging out with the boys,
Mhm.
because like we hang out
Yeah.
uh, every week at a specific time, and like just the overall conversations that we have and just like the hangout sessions are always just absurd and crazy and a good time. And so I was like, I feel like more people need to just hear this. Like, if somebody's looking for something to just listen to, them listening to fucking just the who knows for like a couple hours or an hour or something would
Right.
just be a great idea. But then it just never really panned out too well.
Um, I find it extremely interesting and exciting, and I think I've probably talked to you a little bit about this before, but I've dabbled in. You and I are two completely different types of people, like in almost every way, and
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fucking cool that despite two completely polarized different lives, two completely different sets of characteristics and statistical lives would come together and meet in the middle for something like this. You don't find that like intriguing at all?
Uh, not not necessarily, because I feel like we relate on the characteristics that are normally in play when me and another person are have an attraction to each other, and it's mainly people who are neurodivergent, who just have something going on, some sort of mental something.
Mm.
Whether it's ADHD or autism or depression, anxiety, that kind of thing. I seem to gravitate and connect more with those types of people than just the regular fucking robot people walking around.
Oh, no, no. Well, when you put it that way, dude, I would 100% agree with you, because I am sure as fuck not intrigued at all by people that are just cool with being that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not. It's not intelligent. It's not good conversation. It's not exciting. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just people that are just. I mean, it really feels like robot.
Yeah. And it seems like they're all kind of the same. Like they have the same humor, the same interests. They it's like it's so bizarre to see because they outnumber us
Oh yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it?
by a lot.
When people react to a certain situation the same way that you would expect most people to react to a situation, it makes me wonder, like wholeheartedly makes me wonder, are you not capable of thinking on your own for 2 minutes
Right.
to react a little differently to this situation?
Yeah.
Or do you just have to, right, like where's the power button?
And and I don't dislike these people because they are the way that they are. I just don't have any interest in connecting with them.
I don't dislike them at all. It just doesn't stimulate me.
Well, I take that back. It's not that I don't have any. Well, no, that was true. I don't have any interest in connecting with them, but also at the same time, it just won't work. That's the thing. I can't have a relationship with a neurotypical average person because the way that I am, they just don't. They just it won't happen. It's almost a fact that we will not have a close, long-lasting friendship, no matter how hard we try, because I have all of these habits that are terrible, and I'm chaotic, and I say weird things, and I'm impulsive, and I'm often too much for people. Like we have a conversation, and immediately I'm just like, here's so many things that you probably didn't give a shit to know about in the first place. But when you do that with somebody who is more similar to you, then it's like there's that instant connection. You could tell that the connection is instant because of the way that they react to the things. Normally, when I have a conversation with somebody who is just, pretty straight edge in the brain, they almost just go silent. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with this person? And then if I were to describe any of my experiences or my habits to these people, they'd be like, yeah, no thanks. And then it's the same. It's vice versa. It's mutual.
What you're kind of expressing is something that I kind of feel I get to deal with day to day. Because I deal with every car's a different person,
Right.
and sometimes they have to ride with me for an undisclosed amount of time,
Yeah.
and I have to try and make some fucking conversation or connection with this person for the next 45 minutes that I'm in the same truck with them.
Dude, it's crazy.
The diversity is crazy. It blows my fucking mind that there are some people that I can have a full-blown life story conversation with,
Yeah.
and they get out the truck and I feel like I fucked up by not staying in contact. Like, literally,
Right.
I have that feeling about some people.
Yeah.
But then there's other people that I'm like, thank God that situation is over, because that was dull.
It's just dry.
It was dry, it was dull, there was no connection.
Right.
Point blank, and like it's a struggle to even literally have a conversation because there's not even enough of a connection for you two to communicate on the same page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just fucking mind-blowing that these situations can be so diverse and so different.
Right.
And you like me, like you were explaining, can feel that. You can feed into that.
Pretty quickly.
That neurological connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty quickly, for sure.
Well, and it's also it's a fact. It's a real thing that exists, that people with ADHD, autism, depression, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, have a hard time making friends. And there's a reason why these types of people have a hard time making friends. And then sometimes that causes them to develop odd habits like social anxiety, or their trust issues, or they become more depressed and shut people out, or they don't want to make these connections because they haven't had these connections for so long with people that it's like, well, I don't really know, this is weird, this is a new experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you have to find your type of people. And it's not to say that everybody who, like, I'm not just friends with people who have fucking ADHD. I'm a friendly person all around. No matter who you are, what you're doing, what you got going on, I'm kind, I'm friendly, I'm respectful. I'm the same with everybody. It's just there's certain people where you're like, this is never ever going to go anywhere. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I have. I've experienced that a number of times, and it kind of. I'll be honest, it kind of confuses me a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess it all goes back down to the giant question mark of why it feels like somebody isn't capable of thinking outside of a certain realm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's a complicated conversation. That statement was complicated, but that's how it feels.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well, that's why I hate trends. I hate things that are fucking trending, man. To me, and I've been like this since I was a fucking kid. I remember because in school, all the kids go through these stages of like different things. Like there was people bringing yo-yos to school. There was people bringing silly bands to school. There was people, wearing scarves at school. Everybody fucking copies everybody. There's those fucking rave bracelets. There's those fucking I love booby bracelets. all these things, and since I was a kid, I would see these people, and I would see the first people to start doing this stuff, like the first people to bring yo-yos to school, and I'm like, they're fucking cool, and like that's a cool thing because like how odd, how just out of the blue these
Right.
kids just start bringing these things, but then everybody does it, and then I'm like, well, yeah, now it's no longer fun, and since then I have absolutely despised things that are trending. And something that really bums me out is when, like, songs that I really enjoy, because I don't listen to the radio, I don't get my songs from social media for the most part. I just find them and I listen to them. And then I play the song somewhere, and people are like, oh, this is that TikTok song. And I'm like, what? No, it's not. Fuck off. It's a good song because it's a good song. It's not the TikTok song. Fucking it grosses me out, and I still like this song, but I have been on TikTok and I've seen TikTokers, and it's so confusing to me how so many people can do the same exact thing as somebody else, and then even a tiny bit think that it's like some sort of creative thing that they're doing.
Yeah, trends kind of fucking weird me out because a lot of them are pretty fucking like mindless activities. And that's what blows my mind the most is and then like you said, people fucking hop on that wave like it's going to save their life.
Right. It's so strange to me. I mean, good for them. Most of the people that do these trending things, they do it because it's trending. That means that more people are going to look at it. But how many videos do you have to, you scroll up, you scroll up, you scroll up, you scroll up, and every single person that you scroll up is a different person doing the same thing over and over again. You hear the same song, they're doing the same dance thing, they're doing the same whatever. And it's like, how can anybody do that for an extended period of time? It hurts my brain to think about how people are like, oh yeah, this is entertaining, like
It one of the things like one of the specific things that comes across mine is I got a handful of people that like to eat spicy foods.
yeah,
Just the most spicy. I'm like, you guys are. That's gonna. You're not gonna fare well. You know.
right,
The one thing that seems to be absent here is the amount of care for the long term,
yeah,
and I could say that about an enormous amount of half the shit that gets posted on there.
right.
But like you said, the trends are just outrageous.
It's just weird, man. The same thing goes with like clothing, style, hairstyles. Like, in some regard, it's like, yeah, well, I guess there's a reason why that's trending because it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other times it's like, why just be unique. For like, try to be your own person. Try to. Not, I mean, every single human on Earth can't do their own thing. There's that's just unrealistic. But I don't know. I guess it just comes with me being different than the other people. I just don't think like that. I don't see somebody with a specific style and be like, you know what? I want to look just like that guy.
The one thing that puts me on the fence about everything the most is how ridiculously rewarded these people are.
Yeah.
And I mean, the monetization behind some of this shit, dude, they make a lot of fucking money.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They make a lot of fucking money, and I don't understand how or why.
On one hand, it's genius.
Yeah.
Because they're expected to hop on the next trend.
Right.
And do it 50,000 times.
And get a million fucking likes for everything.
But then, at the same time, it's like, why?
Yeah.
It's crazy that these people get paid to all do the same thing on repeat. It's bizarre, man. It's the weirdest thing.
I literally don't understand it.
Yeah.
But some of these people, all they have to do is record bizarre things throughout their day, and they can literally, they don't have to work.
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind going to work is it's almost gone.
Right.
It's almost just an option.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just I can't wrap my mind around it. And they don't even just make like enough to pay their bills and shit. They live like real well.
Right.
They make a lot of fucking. It's mind blowing. But anyway, trending shit. Not the biggest fan.
No.
Not at all.
It's
And unfortunately for us, it's a downfall these days to not be a big fan of it. I guess that depends on who you ask.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily like dislike people who do that kind of stuff.
It's not the people.
And I don't necessarily dislike the things like the song or the style or whatever that is. I think it's all great. I don't know. Well, that could also be kind of a me thing, or just the way that my thought process on the whole thing. Which is okay. It's something that just doesn't make sense to me, and that's fine.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But yeah, kind of weirdly enough, it kind of leads me into something that I wanted to ask you about a little bit.
Sure.
I seem to have this kind of struggle with myself. I try to pay attention pretty actively to how I am and how I make people react, just in general conversation, general day-to-day living.
Right.
I try to pay attention to the way certain things might come off, Try to be a pretty overall easy person to talk, which is far from how I come off. And this is part of the struggle. Because I think at the base of my topic, what I'm explaining is like, I want to be me. I want to be me to the fullest extent. I want to be true to myself and things like that.
Right.
But who I am doesn't seem to be very, like, palpable. I don't seem to be an easy pill to swallow, like most of the time.
Yeah.
So I find myself trying to be an active part of that conversation and try to be less brash,
Right.
maybe a little bit less of who I am, and this is where I get into that struggle.
Well,
I don't know if I'm doing right or wrong by me, right by them.
in my opinion, it's wrong, because to me, if you're not just being you, then there's a few things. So first off, if you're not being you all of the time, 100% of the time, in every situation, then you're lying to yourself. You're lying to them. You're being fake.
Mm-hmm.
You are not being you as a person. So there's really no point to even doing it at all.
That's fair, and I do agree with you on that point. I do agree with you on that.
And then, if the people that you are, having conversations with, or trying to fit in with, or trying to do this, whatever it is that you're changing about yourself in the moment to appeal more, there's pretty much like 100% chance that person is somebody that should not be in your life.
I wouldn't necessarily go down that road of me trying to be more appealing. I know that's how it sounds, but that's not exactly what I mean by that. I guess I can't really explain how I'm attempting to be a little bit easier to digest.
Well, see, but that's how I am. I'm very direct. I say whatever it is that I want to say. There's obviously situations that occur where certain behavior is more appropriate than other behavior, such as, like, for instance, when I'm at my grandparents' house, I don't like cuss and stuff. I don't talk about things that I know that they don't particularly like or that would upset them. So I adjust myself out of respect, but I don't change my personality at all. I don't change who I am. I still, like, joke about shit. I'm still me all the time. I just kind of cut out a few things that, just because it's really unnecessary.
See, this is an interesting place. This helps me a little bit. Uh, I've vaguely had conversations with mutual contacts, about what we're doing and things like that.
Yeah.
This it seems like you would be explained if we were to describe you in conversation, you would be direct, intelligent, a smart motherfucker. You would be, a lot of positive connotations, which is fine. That's cool. I agree with all of them. Um, but when like when stuff when you try to put me in that conversation, no. People try to describe me in that manner. It's not direct. It's not. It says what he means. He doesn't give a fuck, or asshole gets thrown around.
Right.
And I'm not like super hurt about it. Don't get me wrong. And maybe that's kind of part of it. But I would. What I'm more concerned with is how that's perceived that way, because I definitely don't mean it that way.
Well, so something you have to keep in mind as well is that you can't control how other people feel
Sure can.
and how other people react.
I've learned that.
Right. And so if you say something and somebody gets offended by it or takes it a certain way and runs with it, well, that's their problem and that's on them. It's different if you say something that's obviously insulting and then you're the asshole, which is good, but you can't control how other people feel, and that's across the spectrum. You can't control if you're making somebody feel happy, if you're making somebody feel upset, if you're making somebody confused, if you're making everything that other people do has to be done by them. There's certain things that you could do to influence that, such as, like, if somebody's having a bad day and you're being bubbly, you're being happy, you're being friendly, you could positively impact their day and possibly change their mood from low to mid tier or even like high.
Right.
And same thing, if they're really bubbly and you're just in a shit mood, you can lower their mood from your actions or doing that kind of stuff. But still, you're being you, and the way that they're reacting to it is them. And no matter what the outcome is, you can't control that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, by the way, because you can't, and it doesn't grab onto me like it used to.
Right.
Because you can't let it. You can't let shit like that drag you. I mean, if you're being an active asshole, if you're being a piece of shit to people, that's one thing, But if you're walking away from a conversation that you just had with somebody, and they want to take it the way they want to take it, then that's on them.
Yeah.
My response to that kind of reaction is that if I said something that you feel a negative type of way about, you're more than welcome to bring it up.
Right.
And we can address it there. But that never happens.
And like, sorry, genuinely sorry if it hurt your feelings. That
Right.
was not my intention.
Right.
That was just that's what was happening in my brain, and I wanted to get it out, and that's what I said, and I didn't mean to offend you, and I'm sorry if it did, but that's my truth. That's my interpretation of the truth, the situation, what's happening,
But the fine lines that separate us as different characters is what really intrigues me because you approach things, whether it's your tone or your words, whatever the fucking case may be, that would define you as open and intelligent and forward, things like that. You know,
Right.
there's a Jason. He's not. He's fucking more direct and more forward than I am.
Yeah.
But the way people perceive him is so fucking amazing because he says some wild off the wall shit during the day, and I've I've been in the middle of some of the situations that he does this, and it's always just maybe it's because he's bubbly about it or whatever the case may be.
I think it's just there's a lot of things that impact these types of situations. If it's people that are close to you that you've known for a very long time, they could be developing their opinions about you based on previous things that you have done that have been like, pretty dick moves.
That's true.
And like from me, from the first day that I ever met you, I ever had a conversation with you, I was like, yeah, I can get along with this guy. And we just fucking hit it off, and we were just, whatever. And I didn't see any problem with it. I picked up on your personality real quick. It was fun. It was exciting. I could fuck with you. You could fuck with me. It was just a good time. And that's how, but not everybody will perceive you like that. Same thing with me. I mean, there's, the people that say this kind of stuff are people that I'm close with, or that I try to be a good person. I try to be kind and respectful and just overall positive. But I'm sure there's hundreds, thousands of people that just don't like me because of this opinion that they just gathered from something, whether it was something that I did in the past, or like I used to be a huge dick in high school.
You keep
like
saying that,
a
man.
fucking raging asshole. And so all of those people, if my name gets brought up, they're probably like, oh, that kid, he was a fucking dick, which is okay, fair enough. I was. There's nothing wrong with that. The same thing if I fuck up or I mistreat somebody or I do something bad. Like, I own that. Yeah, that's true. That is a thing that happened, but not anymore. I mean, believe it or not, people are capable of changing.
Right.
And I am one of those people. And so it's like, Another example that I have is like how people treat their parents based on how they were raised. So, for instance, like, some of the, I don't even know what generation you would call it. Like, I guess like my parents and their parents. So like my mom and my grandparents, or that age group, that time period, is the way that parents raised their kids was a lot different than the way that parents raise their kids now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are like, my parents are really strict. They never let me do anything. I had a really strict curfew. I wasn't allowed to like this or that. I wasn't allowed to do this or that. And so then they hold on to that. And it's like, or my parents were alcoholics, or they were abusive and stuff. And no matter how much their parents have changed into their old age and are completely not like that anymore, they just insist on holding on to this thing. Like, no, they're still a piece of shit. They're still this kind of way. They're still just terrible. I still don't like my parents because of A, B, and C. And it doesn't have to be that way. So, like, just because you do something that was kind of a dick move, or you were a certain way at a certain time period. Like, it doesn't define who you are now. But for me, see, like, that's why I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Because all of the people that think that about me, or that I was an asshole to, there's a few of them where I look back from time to time and I'm like, man, I feel bad about doing that now. But most of them, I don't care. Like, I'm not hoping that we can have some sort of relationship. I'm content with my life without them inside of it. So it's like, it's either they should be willing to know the true version of yourself, which is why I am always the true version of myself. Because if somebody has an opinion about me, chances are if they meet me and talk to me and get to know me now, their opinion is going to change, because all the shit that's making them form this negative opinion about me is just simply not true. Even if it was true at a point in time, it is not currently true, which is all that matters, because everything that happened in the past, well, there's nothing you can do about it.
And therein lies part of my curiosity and my intriguing mindset that has led me to do what we're doing today.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I find it difficult to just believe that there are so many people that would, despite what you just said, I do agree with you about, not giving a fuck. You're content where you are today, and things have changed, time has moved on, all that stuff as a whole. I do agree with you. And I would agree with that most of the time. However, I for one would like to be able to not necessarily have a relationship with those situations or those people. That's not what I'm looking for. But an understanding for on both ends of who I was and who I am now.
Right.
That, I guess you would call that closure. There are a lot of situations that I would like to see closure.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is because I push so hard, especially these days, for people to be able to have that conversation. I want for people to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
That's my fucking mission. That's what we're sitting here doing. I want for anybody to be able to have any conversation they want.
Right.
Without reacting negatively. Because we can, and that's the fun part.
Yeah.
Is if you take 2 seconds and think a little bit outside your own little comfort zone, you can have a conversation about anything.
Right.
Do you have to? No. Like you just said, I'm content. I'm good where I'm at. I don't fucking need your approval.
Yeah.
But understanding would be cool. That's knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'll take that shit all day.
I mean, yeah, especially if...
sorry, I kind of twisted everything you said.
No. It's okay. It's one of those things where, like, you can't... I know that I've said this, but like, you can't control other people. So
yeah, definitely.
Until they are willing to put in the work, the effort, the time of day, the couple minutes to want to change their mindset of you, or want to experience a version of you, or want to just, because you could say whatever you want to say. Say you fucked up, you did something terrible, and that this group of people, like your mom or something, is like, you are this way because of what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how many times you or your friends or your family try to convince her that you are no longer this way, it's a stupid thing. You're sorry about it. You feel shitty about it, whatever. But spend some time with me. Get to know me now, because I'm different. If she doesn't take the time to do that, then what is input, she's going to have the same output of just the same mindset of, well, no, that can't be true because this is true. And so if you are you, though, all of the time, then if these other people care enough about you to want to get to know that version of you, then they will do that, and then they will see that you have changed. You are this person now. You're not this false opinion or once true opinion that they had about you, and that's that. But if you aren't your full self when you're around these people or in other situations, then that's where the stuff gets kind of like cross-referenced of like, well, no, because this thing happened a couple weeks ago, and so he hasn't changed. But if you aren't that way anymore and you don't do those things, then it's like nobody has anything to say about it. And then it's on them, whoever you're interacting with at any point in time, to decide whether they want to be a part of it or not. But no matter how much you would like it to happen, if they're not willing to accept it, if they're not willing to give it a shot, if they're not willing to, I don't know, be a part of your life, well then they're free to have that opinion, and there's not really anything you can do about it.
See, you bring up the other side of this internal argument that I've had is, well, I'm not huge on. Well, it's not that I'm not huge. I'm not fucking capable of feeding somebody false hope or a false personality.
Right.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
And I personally would call it my it's a blessing and a curse, you know. I don't know. I'm not too keen on using the word curse because I think everything has its purpose. But I am. It was like, fuck, I don't even remember how old I was. Maybe it was like 29 or something. I went through something hard. I found myself always trying to impress everybody and always trying to be, that guy.
Right.
And I told myself after a really big downfall and a really big reset, I'm not going to fucking impress anybody anymore. The only person that I need to make happy is me, and I need to stop focusing on how everybody else feels about me.
Right.
So I stopped. And I promised myself that I was never going to lie to anybody ever again, regardless of what that means.
Yeah.
And I don't. And it sucks. It fucking sucks. Because now when somebody asks me a question and expects a sugar-coated fucking version of what they don't want to hear, they don't get it.
Yeah.
I may or may not be a little hesitant because I know what's about to fucking float out of my mouth, but that's about the gist of what they're going to get out of me, and then they get the truth,
Dude, it's useless to tell people things that aren't genuinely going to help them.
I don't want to enable. I'm not going to fucking hold your hand. If you're not going to help yourself, I'm not going to help you.
Right.
And that's kind of where that goes. And that's the other side of that argument, because I don't want to let that go. It's just a hard road to go down.
Right.
And I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah.
Because you do the same fucking thing. You don't lie to people.
Right.
No,
love everybody and tell the truth.
I feel like that's reasonable.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you're going to know who I am.
See, I don't think it sucks because it makes everything that much more valuable. So even if somebody that you care about is coming to you with something and you have a super good relationship with them and they're coming to you with something, whether it's something that they did that you don't agree with or it's just anything really, and they say it to you, and then you give them some bullshit response that's not genuine, that's not honest, you're doing no one any favors.
Yeah, that's a disservice to yourself.
Right. And to them, because then they're either going to leave thinking that this is okay and like have this sort of false hope of like, well, yeah, everything's going to be okay because my buddy who I'm really close with told me that this is fine or whatever, instead of being like, no, you fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Like, you did a shitty thing, and now you're going to have to fucking deal with it. Like, you're going to have to fix it.
I will say, like, it's kind of fucking nice to have your own back all the time, because when you're honest with everybody all the time, you can call out shit. Like, if somebody says, oh, hey, I heard you said this or this and this, and,
Right.
you know, you can immediately smell the bullshit.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I would never fucking say that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to tell you that.
Right. Well, and that's a thing that I also live by with others. No matter what I hear about somebody else, unless they tell me that thing themselves or I witnessed it happening, I don't believe it.
Right.
Because I have no reason to.
Right. Nor am I going to spread it.
Right.
It's misinformation as far as I'm concerned.
Why would I?
Right.
People can say whatever they want to say. It's really easy. You know? But if you don't know, then you don't know, and you shouldn't be fucking talking about shit that you don't know about.
This particular topic is the reason over the last 2 years that I have separated myself from a lot of people that I know.
Yeah.
This constant conversation about people or business or whatever the fuck the case may be, false information,
Yeah.
Misinterpreted things, you know, the whole fucking thing. Because it's just bizarre how twisted things can get.
Yeah.
When people decide that they're not going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to be true to the truth.
Well, it's just, to me, I just don't see the point. Why lie about something? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen if you just tell the truth? Like, it's so strange to me why anyone would be dishonest about anything, because like I just don't see the point.
Not only that, but when it involves other people, why throw dirt on somebody else? Like, why? What benefit is this to you? If somebody is going to bury themselves, let them bury themselves.
Right.
It'll always happen that way.
Yeah.
They don't fucking need your help.
Yeah. Right.
So don't lie. Mind your shit.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, pretty much. And I've also learned that when talking to somebody, so the way that I used to be was that I always had this constant desire, this like overwhelming need to try my hardest to control other people's emotions, to, if they're feeling a certain way or like they're not acting like themselves, that I need to intervene. And if somebody tells me something, that I have to respond and I have to give them advice and I have to give them my opinion on the thing. And then I learned that every so often people just want to talk. Like, they just want somebody to listen, and they just want to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about, and they're not necessarily looking for feedback on the thing, and that you can't control anybody else. And so I would get frustrated and I would feel overwhelmed because I couldn't impact this person the way that I wanted to. And then I was like, well, I just can't. I mean, I can try to help, but I can't. And then if I tell somebody something that is not what they want to hear, chances are they're just going to ignore it and not want to carry on with the conversation.
Man, that one hits home. I'm not gonna lie to you at all. I'm fucking severely guilty of that still to this day. I, to be completely fucking forward, yeah, I started doing that shit when you showed up. I still do it,
Yeah.
big time, man. I feed pretty heavily into how people are feeling.
Yeah.
I feel it, like, and I can't explain to you. It sounds ridiculous, but I just feel like when people are down, when they're feeling some type of way, I can feel it in the air.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why when you walked in, I was fucking crying a little bit, and I didn't mean to. But it's just I just want to do. I want to be there, and I want to do that, you know. But I'm still learning how to separate myself from that.
Dude, it's so much more freeing when you just stop. Because what really hit for me is that I was doing so many things for other people
Mm-hmm.
just so that they didn't have to. Right? I would unnecessarily do so many things for so many people. And the crazy thing is that whether I did or did not do this thing, the outcome was the same. And it wouldn't have really mattered either way if I did or didn't do these things. Because if I didn't do them, well, then it could have, they would have either figured out a different way to do it, or they would have just moved on.
That's
But for me, I spend minutes and hours trying to do stuff for other people. So I am constantly like running around, putting in more work, putting in more effort, and I'm getting burnt out from trying to help these people. And then what I get in return is just like, oh, hey, thanks. And it's crazy. It got to the point where I was like, when I was in a public bathroom or like a bathroom at work or something, and I was fucking peeing, that I felt like if somebody walked in, I felt like I had to pee faster so I could get done faster, so I didn't inconvenience them and their wait time to fucking pee.
damn, man.
And so
That's
like
fucking heavy.
down to like 15 seconds of me fucking urinating, it was like, but that thought in me, as soon as I heard footsteps, I was like, oh god, I gotta hurry up because I don't want to inconvenience this other person. I don't want to make them feel anything negative or anything worse.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that like they don't give a shit, and I can't control that anyway. And
Right.
then there'd be people would ask me questions that they could very easily just like find the answer to, and instead of just saying fucking Google it, I would spend like 40 minutes trying to find a very detailed answer for things and then send them what I found, and they were like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. But
Something they could have done on their own.
right, but I was taking the time out of it just so that they didn't have to. And it was like, it just got to the point where I was like, this is so overwhelming, and it just leaves me frustrated and feeling like stressed out, and giving me anxiety. And the truth is that if I just finished my pee in the amount of time that it would have normally taken me, they would have no problem waiting an extra few seconds. And even if it did upset them, well then, yeah, go fuck yourself. And I could have not spent 40 minutes Googling something for somebody else. And I could have just been like, yeah, I don't know. Because I didn't know when they asked me the question, but I was like, I'm going to find out for you so you don't have to do the work. But if I just said, I don't know, they probably would have just did it anyway. And it's like, it got to the point where I was like, this doesn't even matter. Like,
Still, I still have this issue to this day. Going back to when you said it stresses you out. There are some situations when I fucking finally decide to let go of whatever the case is. Doesn't matter. I get anxiety for sometimes days
yeah.
about just wanting to, like, you said doesn't matter what you do, they will figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that's true. Like 100% of the time, somebody. No, that's not true. They're either gonna figure it out or they're not, and they're gonna move on.
Right.
And that's not your problem all the time.
Yeah.
And that thought in and of itself has destroyed my days. I've let it destroy me.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I'm working on it because there are some times where you have to push it and just say, I don't know, get it done, or you know what I mean?
Right.
I can't help you. And then the anxiety of that, either the backlash, which is something as stupid as a fucking text or something that's not going to affect your life at all in reality, or never hearing about it again, which means either they figured it out or they didn't, and they didn't want to bother you again.
Right.
Gives me anxiety. Intangible, unrealistic anxiety.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to move past that sometimes.
Well, and see, that's the thing. When you put yourself in these situations, everything that's happening from both sides of it, from their perspective and from your perspective, is both happening and playing out inside of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Something that is just completely not even true because you are forming all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
from nothing.
It's your formulation always.
Right. It's self-created stress, anxiety, problems. And so that I would like go home and then I would be rethinking about my day, replaying it over and over and over again, and all the things that I could have done different or I could have done better, or like, should I have done this? Shouldn't I have done this? I don't know about this or this. And then so like I'm constantly thinking about this stuff when it's happening, after it happened, and they're not. As soon as it's done, no matter how much time you took with it, they just carry on living their lives.
Yeah.
And probably never think about it again.
But for some reason, I'm constantly stuck, just like you, with the oh shit and the what if.
Yeah, and so you gotta stop doing that, man. It's so much more freeing to just live your life. Like, that's not to say you can't do kind things for people, but you don't always have to go out of your way to try to do something just so somebody else isn't inconvenienced.
So one of the things that I found, I'm going to use this pretty generally because it can be very specific times, but one of the things that I used to do quite a bit, and I used to do it because I found it to be a respectful thing. I found myself explaining myself to other people.
Yeah.
Fucking all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And I don't know what goes on in people's fucking twisted brains or how that gets perceived, but it always ends up biting me in the ass.
Yeah.
This explanation of why I did something or how I did something, for some reason it like gets twisted and turns into a point of power.
Yeah.
Like in an unconscious if somebody's not thinking about what you're actually doing, like if I'm talking to you and I start explaining myself, there's probably not an active thought in your head that says, okay, he feels like he's being vulnerable right now and he's giving me the reins.
Right.
That's not how anybody thinks. But for some reason, everybody's brain takes it and says, well, if he's explaining myself to me, then I must be the higher being. And that conversation always takes a turn for the worst.
Yeah.
Because now you feel like you're in power. Because I felt the need to explain myself. So it's a weird association, and I know it's kind of hard to wrap everything else around, but what I stopped doing in all of these moments that we were just talking about was explaining myself.
Right.
I stopped giving people that respect, and I stopped giving people that open conversation. I stopped opening that conversation.
Right.
And that was what it meant for me.
That's good. I used to do that shit too, and sometimes I still do.
Sometimes I still do.
Not necessarily feel the need to explain myself, but just be very extra detailed about things.
Right.
When that amount of detail isn't necessary, and I had very similar experiences where I would spend like so long writing out these super long paragraphs because I'm like, I gotta explain this from every angle so they have every detail. And so any question that they could possibly have about it is answered in this message. I gotta make sure about that. And then I would get like a 3-word response
Yeah.
to this big thing, and I was like, oh, okay, well, good. I guess they understood. But from their perspective, most of the time, they don't really give a shit. If you're late to work, you're late to work, and they don't really care why you're late to work unless they ask you.
Right.
But if you come in, and you're like, oh, sorry, all this stuff happened to me, blah blah, it's my bad. They're just like, okay, well, just don't be late again.
Yeah, don't do it again. Yeah, it's super bizarre how unnecessary it is, and I think just like you just kind of explained is you have to tell yourself if they want more out of this, then they can ask,
Right.
or they don't,
Yeah.
and guess that the conversation is done.
Yeah.
That would always be my assumption these days is, and I tell everybody I come in contact with, like, if you have questions or you want to have a conversation about anything on this planet, just say it.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah.
What's the worst that's gonna happen? No.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just so. Yeah, I stopped giving that up.
Well, yeah, and in most situations, of why do you need to explain yourself?
Yep.
Unless it's needed for the situation, it is sort of shown as an act of weakness, because you're like, oh, or weakness, or like defensiveness, or something along those lines, where like this person is almost intimidating you into being like, I gotta over explain myself.
Yes.
And it's like, no, fuck you.
I was
like,
gonna say it's almost, and now that you explain it that way, it's almost like admitting guilt.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're on the wrong side of this.
Yeah. It's like, no, you misunderstood. Let me explain myself. No, like, if I say something and you're like, oh, this is what you mean? And you're just, instead of being like, no, this next paragraph is what I meant, you just be like, no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah, that's not what I was saying.
No.
You misinterpreted that.
Yeah, read it again
Like-
and then let me know.
Like 90% of the time, it gets misinterpreted too.
Right.
So, that was what I had to do.
And it's like, it's so much easier. And like when people accuse you of things and you're just like, nah, that didn't happen. Instead of being like, no, it didn't happen for all of these reasons. It's like, what? Why do they need your fucking time? They're coming at you. Why do they need your fucking long explanations of things?
Right.
It doesn't matter anyway. Who gives a shit what this person thinks?
And just like that, it's such a fucking amazing feeling to be on top of that situation.
Yeah.
And it's the second part of knowing that that situation is probably over
Right.
because you didn't put yourself down below.
Well, and it also coincides with the whole just being honest thing.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't need this fully drawn out wild explanation of why something happened if it's the truth. Chances are, if you're like over explaining something, that's because it's not true.
See, that's the thing, is I always connected them
Right.
because I thought that that's what people wanted.
Right.
This is the truth, and I'm going to tell you why.
Right.
But in all reality, that's not how it was ever perceived.
No.
So,
Yeah.
that's fucking crazy.
Well, because a lot of people see stuff like that and they're just like, well, how long did it take you to come up with that one?
Right, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, now I know you're full of shit.
They just think it's like an excuse, because it is a common form of lying
Yeah.
when you're kind of like almost storytelling, or you're making something up as you're explaining something. And that normally happens when the thing that you're like being accused of, or the thing that you're trying to explain is you're trying to convince that person that this thing is true.
Yep.
When it's not. Like, if your wife is like, you cheated on me, and you're just like, if you did, then like, yeah, you're right, I did. And why? Well, this is why. It's very short, sweet, and simple. People don't just cheat on people for no reason. It's typically a very a very short and sweet conversation. It should be. It's just like, why did you do this thing? Well, because of these reasons, and that's it. And if you did it, then you're just like, nah, I didn't. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be complicated. It's like, if
it-
you're telling the truth, well then there's a very straightforward, direct answer as to why this thing is or is not true.
It's so bizarre. I mean, and you nailed it too. Is how over exaggeration or over explanation now is fucking widely known as somebody that's bullshitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's definitely more common for your automatic response to be like, "Oh yeah, you're full of shit,"
Right.
more than it is, "Wow, that's crazy."
Yeah.
But damn, wow, yep. So steps were taken.
So I mean, I would just focus on, if you are you all the time, you love everybody, you tell the truth. That's you literally doing everything that you can to be the person that you are all of the time.
And that's all you should do.
And then it's on other people to feel how they want to feel about it.
Hmm.
You know?
These days, I'm attempting the approach of, I'm just gonna let things produce themselves.
Yeah.
I'm pretty over using words.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna show you.
Right.
And it's not like I'm not like mad, I'm not like upset. I'm just like there's a lot of times when words just don't cut it. People still want to do and say what they're gonna do and say.
Right.
Can't change that. So I've told people flat out, like, I don't want to talk to you because it's not gonna do me any good.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm not upset with you, but I'm not gonna do this with you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna breathe hot air so you can twist it.
Yeah.
So
No, and I think that's very valuable, and that's something that more people should do, is just say what you're feeling when you're feeling it.
right, and this is where this is where things resonate negatively with other people,
Right.
and that's fine. Again, that goes back to what you said.
Yeah.
If-
A lot of things that I say to people is a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
But you fucking asked, or you didn't ask, but somebody has to tell you the truth.
Right.
And if you're unhappy with that, well then, sorry.
I say, like, if you can respond, and this is pretty much where I draw my line these days. If I can respond to any single person that brings any conversation to the table, if they can bring me any conversation or question in a fucking civilized manner, then I will be just as civilized in responding to you with the truth. My words might be, I don't want to talk because it's not going to do me any good,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily make me an asshole. That just makes me honest.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of people are like, wow, you didn't have to be a dick about it.
right.
And
Like,
you're
well,
I wasn't being a dick.
if I was being a dick, I would have told you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But
That's just how it is.
That's not what I said.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to you just the way you're talking to me.
It's like when people come to you and they're like, oh, I'm having this issue or this thing happened to me. And they're expecting you to be like, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And no. It's probably not happening. And you're like, yeah, man, you're probably right.
That's
It's probably happening.
That's fucking pretty bad, dude.
And they're just like, well, fuck, that didn't help me at all. It's like, well, if I told you some bullshit, like, oh, it's gonna be okay, and yeah, it's don't believe it, man. It's probably not true, and all this fucking bullshit. When we both know that's incorrect, then it's not gonna help anybody. I'm lying to you, and you're gonna get fucked over. So like, why not me just be honest with you and tell you what you need to hear, and then it also doesn't really matter, because if you don't tell them what they want to hear, they're it's not gonna stick. It's not gonna stay in their head. They're just gonna move on to the next person who does tell them what they want to hear. Like,
that's definitely one thing, dude. I find it extremely interesting how often people just want to have their fucking hand held for a minute, um, rather than approach the situation that they need to be approaching.
Right.
And I will say, because I know this is incorrect, one of my biggest things is when people come to me with shit like that they want sugarcoated. Maybe they don't. But my first automatic response, dude, like 90% of the time is, well, okay, you're here, we're talking about it, so let's get this figured out.
Yeah.
And I know you're not supposed to do that all the time. You're not supposed to always offer solutions because some people just want to vent.
Yeah,
But-
that's 100% correct.
But it's like I said, it's like a flaw because I do it. If one of my boys brings me a situation, I'm like, all right, well, you came to me, so let's get it figured out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I'll fucking help you get anything done you need to, but you have to know that you got to fucking get through it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you it's gonna be okay if it's not.
For most people, I have picked up on the cues of this person just wants to talk or this person's looking for feedback.
Right.
But for the people that you're unsure about, that's something that you could just establish up front. Like, do you just want me to listen or do you want me to chime in? Let me know.
I've learned to ask.
Like, yeah.
Because I don't always know, and like I said, my first instinct is to fix.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That was me too. And it just
I don't, and that's one of the things I don't have a fucking problem with.
right.
It's not an inconvenience to me if somebody. The way I perceive shit like that is if somebody's entrusting me with information, it's for a reason,
Yeah.
and I should respect that,
Right.
and I'm cool with it. But that's not always the correct cue,
Yeah.
and I've
Right.
fucking learned that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They could just be coming to you because you're somebody that they feel comfortable, safe with,
right,
they trust, and they just want you to know what's going on.
yeah,
But they don't want you to be like, here's my thoughts on the situation.
right.
You know?
It's super weird, man. But one of my favorite things when people that are close to me, when they tell me, you know, can I trust you with information, or can I talk to you about something and it's gonna stay with you? Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, fuck yeah. Let's get it off. Come on,
Yeah.
say what you need to say.
Yeah.
I got you. I promise.
It's great.
Yeah, I love it because that to me tells me for somebody else to reciprocate the way I feel like that, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Finally, you're on the same fucking level.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's good shit, man.
it is, because when somebody fucking opens up like that and admits that they're gonna be vulnerable for a minute and hands you a situation, and all you have to do is hold on to it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, I know that this thing's getting pretty long, but one last thing that I'll say about that is that also a lot of the time, the things that you have to say may not be helpful at all.
yeah,
Because either you guys don't have the same thought process on that type of thing, or it's just something where, like, they're not really they're not looking for a response. Like, no matter what you say is just gonna kind of they might even leave you on fucking red or something,
yeah.
because it's just like the understanding isn't there. It's really hard to help people with a situation where if you don't completely understand that person and what they're going through. Like, if somebody's coming to you because they're feeling a type of way because, like, a family member died and you haven't had anyone pass away, then you don't really understand the feeling of that and the entirety of that. And so if you try to give them advice and you try to help them with the situation, well, you really can't, because you haven't experienced it yet. You could say, well, I've had a lot of friends that have had this happen to them, but for you don't really, you've never felt that experience. And the same thing goes with, like, mental health. When I try to talk to, like, let's say my wife about some of the issues I'm having with, like, ADHD or something along those lines. Like, this is a struggle that I'm having. She cannot help me with it because she does not understand as a whole what having ADHD is like. She has done a ton of research about it, and she's watched a lot of videos about it, and she knows, she's been with me for a while, and so all of that outside information are helpful things, or she'd be like, well, this thing helped you in the past, or like, I have a really good understanding about it, so maybe it's this that's the issue. But unless she has it, it's hard to help people. Same thing with people come to you and they're like really fucking just bumming hard, like they're just depressed as fuck, and you're not a person who has depression. You just don't understand. But people who don't struggle with depression and just get like sad from every now and again from time to time, you can't help somebody efficiently who has an imbalanced mental illness of depression. Because the things that you say to them, they're like, well, okay, I appreciate it, thank you for your kind words, but like, it's just not helpful.
Right.
Because doing all of that is not something that somebody who's struggling with, it's not going to help. It's not going to fix it. I've tried everything.
Man, the things that you're describing fucking, and we'll lock it up after this, but what you just said was how you feel like that's cool and I appreciate it, but that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Dude, when people try, if and when I go to people to express shit, whatever turmoil is going on in that moment, and it like irks me the most in that moment that I can feel that the words that they're saying is not genuine, and that's not their fault.
Right.
That shit like irritates me because now I'm like, okay, now I feel like a fucking dickhead because they're trying to help and it doesn't feel that way.
Right.
So sometimes just listening is the most condolence you can do.
Exactly.
Because feeding that bullshit isn't going to feel right.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse than fucking pouring out this big thing and they're like, it's going to be okay, man.
You're like, well, fuck me.
You're like, great. Yeah. Okay, probably, but
awesome.
Also, fuck you. Like, what kind of fucking bullshit is that?
Oh, God.
Like, yeah, you're right. Everything is going to be okay. But, like, come on.
Yeah. So, moral of today's fucking episode. Don't be fucking fake.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty solid ending result.
Be yourself. Be honest. Love everybody. Tell the truth. And,
you're the only one you're hurting.
Sometimes people just want somebody to talk to.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
You might have to ignore the urge to fix things, as I do.
But you can't.
But you cannot.
Yeah.
Time heals. But anyway. You know what? Normally I plug everything. I'm not fucking gonna. I think we've heard it enough.
Yeah, we love you anyway, but
people comment where they will. Water will find its way.
True.
Oof.
Yeah.
So.
Have a good one.
We love you.